Yep.
One more time. Mr. Joel Brennan.
Here.
Mr. Grady Crosby.
Here.
Senator LaTanya Johnson.
Here.
Mr. James Cantor.
Here.
Marty Brooks is in the room. Ms. Sarah Mayo. Steve Marsh. John Yingling and Kirk Pelican as well. And we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. First order of business, discussion and approval of the meeting minutes from January 14th of 2021 from our governance committee. I entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Crosby,
Johnson.
second.
Great, thanks. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Meeting minutes have been approved. Next order of business, Steve Marsh with our financial update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Today is a rather quick update. The Finance Committee meeting scheduled for this morning was canceled. We will, however, have financials to present at next week's board meeting, and the Finance Committee will have an opportunity to review and provide input to me and Marty prior to that meeting. Certainly, if any of the Governance Committee members have questions regarding the financials upon the receipt prior to next Friday's board meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Marty if you have questions. The main takeaway today is there's not a lot of material change to the district's financial position since our meetings in January. As we prepare for the upcoming 2020 fiscal year audit, we're going through the process of reconciling 1,269 general ledger accounts. This reconciliation process generates puts and takes to the income statement that may either increase or decrease our various revenue and expense accounts. Thankfully, we're approaching the end of that process, and I would expect our final net income number, notwithstanding the changes to bond interest expense that I mentioned last month, to be a bit better than our last forecast once that reconciliation is complete. As for our 2021 event activity, we're a bit more optimistic than we were last month regarding the likelihood that we'll be hosting several volleyball and dance competitions over the next several months, of which we're on budgeted. We're also working hard to advance the annual RV show. Both the RV show and the volleyball events require final sign-off from the City Health Department on our safety plan, and such process is currently underway. We're hopeful that we'll receive an approval regarding those events here in short order.
Steve, do we submit a safety plan, or do they submit a safety plan, or is it a joint safety plan? How does that work? For the people coming into the building.
We work with the event, but then we submit the plan to the City Health Department. What's working hopefully to our advantage is that Doc, who is overseeing the vaccination program in the building, is here every day. And we have been working very closely with him for this event. He seems to be a big supporter of how we've run his event. And he is an advisor to Claire Evers and the City Health Department. So before we're submitting the plans directly to the Health Department, we're conferring with Doc Nick to get his input and reaction, so that if there's anything that he thinks could be putting us at risk, if you would, for being approved, we're addressing it before we submit it.
Good, great, thank you. That was helpful. We know how the process works.
Our concert business remains a bit uncertain as cities like ours begin to loosen capacity restrictions, and venues, promoters, and artists contemplate the best way to hold an event that ensures the safety of our guests as well as generate a profit. It's an area we continue to monitor, and we'll update the board to any changes we feel are necessary to budget for this market segment. Management continues to doggedly manage expenses. Our managers are in constant communication with both me and Marty regarding potential cash outflows. In fact, earlier this week, I think I gave approval on a $15 can of spray foam. So that's how closely we are monitoring the situation. We're working very hard every day to save.
I turned that request down.
Oh.
I'm surprised they went to mom after I turned it down.
It seemed like an important person.
Okay.
We're certainly not taking any good news for granted, and we will continue to manage cash outflows as we have been for the past 12 months in that regard. We do believe our 2021 budget continues to hang together, and I'll discuss that in more detail at the board meeting next week. Additionally, we'll also be refreshing the board on the expansion project budget next week as well. That's the update. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Steve?
This is Joe. I do have a question just about if you know with the vaccination site, is there a time horizon on that? Is that kind of month to month? How are you guys managing that project with the city and with the other parties?
Currently, their contract and the anticipation is that they're here through April. They have the ability, as do we, to go beyond that if they need the facility. But right now, they're contracted through the end of April, Joel.
Great, thanks.
And there is the anticipation that within the next week or two, subject to the availability of the vaccine, they will go to a 7-day-a-week availability as opposed to right now where they're not giving vaccines on Sunday.
Any other questions?
Just an observation, Marty. I've been working often at the state office building just across the street, and navigating my way through downtown, and it certainly is a hub of activity. And we've gone through this already, but it underscores the importance of the Wisconsin Center District to the community and to our health and wellness and where we're going. So it is obvious that is a big undertaking and something that's really important for our community. So thanks.
Oh, sure. We are honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, I've had family members that have come receive their shot here, and they've had nothing but good things to say about how everything's been handled. So that's good news and a testament to that point, Joe. Thanks.
Well, and I'll take credit for that, Joel, but it would be unfair to take credit for all of it because the health department really has done a spectacular job in staffing it and organizing it and working with us to make sure that we make the experience as easy for those who are coming to get vaccinated as possible. And there's been a lot of calling audibles because either crowds have been heavier than anticipated, lighter than anticipated. We're also reacting to when the vaccine became eligible to those 65 plus, what we were realizing is that a fair number of those individuals, of which I'm very close to being a part of that category, but not quite yet, cannot stand for long periods of time. So what we've done is at the socially distance markers that we already have for people as they queue up, we place chairs at each of them so that that's not something we initially thought we'd need. And then as we saw the clientele change, we realized we've got to make an accommodation. So the health department deserves all the kudos. They've just been just seeing how they're looking out for the public interest has been inspirational to us.
Excellent. Any other questions around that or around Steve? For Steve? Great. With that, Marty, CEO update.
Thank you. Thank you. First off, just on a bit of a housekeeping note, at the last board meeting, we had the most number of people attending it in person. We had 4 board members in the room, and considering the staff attendees, Kurt Pelican from Michael Best, the boardroom itself got a bit crowded. So what we're doing for next week's board meeting and until further notice, we're going to move it into room 203. So if you're interested in attending in person, we will be doing it in a larger room, allowing for socially distancing. So if you're available and would be comfortable coming in person, we'd love to have you and are making the accommodations to have a bigger crowd in person than we otherwise have had. Leading off my list is really just a brief update on the expansion. Nothing of note has happened in the past several weeks, so Mike Abrams is not part of the program for next week unless there's any specific desire to have him here to be available for questions, which we can, but there's not any set presentation plan for next week's board meeting. We have begun, Sarah and I had our first really in-depth roll-up-your-sleeves meeting with Impression Sports and Entertainment last week, going over with them really our in-depth strategy meeting, planning meeting with half a dozen members of their sales team, going over what our thoughts were and the type of partner, and then just really entertaining any questions they had. We did have the architects involved in the call, so everyone's fully versed now on what the project is, what our expectations are for them, and expect the meetings with impressions to continue with regularity over the next several, the duration of the project. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, we are hosting the Visit Milwaukee Event Planner Advisory Board for 2 days of focus groups over our expansion plan. We have 9 people coming in for a session on Tuesday, and then 8 different planners coming in on Wednesday. And the agenda is such is that we will spend the first part of the morning with each group going over with them what our design is, and then the second half of the morning through the afternoon, or early part of the afternoon, is give us your reaction and thoughts to what we've planned, and tell us how you envision your meeting being activated post-COVID. So we are, I want to say, early enough in the design process where structurally we're not looking to change anything, but it's really amenities, flow of the areas, food service, restrooms, things right now that have not been solid walled in the design project or process to get their input. So I'm really looking forward to that. And just informationally, although it doesn't involve us directly, the advisory board participants, which is a combination of those locally as well as those from outside the Milwaukee region, they're coming in, and the day that they're not spending with us, they're spending with Visit Milwaukee, doing an informational session about Milwaukee, and then a tour around Milwaukee to see the amenities. So we're taking the opportunity to not only get them involved in the expansion, but also familiarize them with Milwaukee and what we have as a destination. So each group is coming in for 2 days, checkerboarding what each is doing. We're really looking forward to it. We've got members of the design team from Atlanta coming in to lead the focus group on both days, and really looking forward to be important information gathering for us. Along the lines of information gathering, we have finalized or close to finalizing the exact travel arrangements, but we are confirmed that a group of us, a rather large group of us, will be going on 2 trips, 2-day trips over the course of 2 weeks. The last February 22nd, we're going to Indianapolis and then Columbus to look at their convention centers, and then the following week we're going to Nashville and Louisville to look at their convention centers. There's a group, it's comprised of the architectural team, Icon, a fair number of WCD staff, 3 members of the Visit Milwaukee staff, and Libby Restaurant. So it's a very diverse group, all of the primary stakeholders that'll be involved in designing, building, and selling our expansion. So again, another, I think, appropriately timed educational tour for us. Staying with the expansion for another minute, just wanted to let the board know that we continue to meet with various city departments, making sure they are up to date, informed of where we are with the project. We had done this about a year ago, just informationally, before the project was even approved. We've already met with DPW, and we're meeting later today and tomorrow with Department of City Development, and then Department of Neighborhood Services. Again, just to give them an update on what the project is, and seeking their input as far as what issues we should be concerned about that are of concern to them. So all of these have been, thus far, the DPW meeting was terrific, and expect the same out of the next 2. As Steve was talking about event activity, we have the health department coming in today at 12:30 to go over with us the safety plan we submitted with them for the RV show. The RV show would very much still like to have its event later this month, even though we're restricted to up to 250 people. they're still bullish and want to do the show. So if we can get approval from from the health department today, we're hopeful that the RV show can still put things together in enough time to affect that next week. Something that I meant to mention just prior to that comment was last week, I'm sure you all are aware, the health department came out with order 4.4, which really affects us to the positive, everyone, but specifically us, in that it allows you to have capacity up to 25% of your normal capacity, up to 250 people without a safety plan. And if you want to have a group of any type of activity above 250 people, you need to have an approved safety plan. And what's another positive to this order is that you don't have to have a safety plan for every event above 250. We have already submitted a safety plan to have the volleyball events up in the Expo Center. Once we have an approved safety plan for volleyball, it would apply to all volleyball tournaments that we have. So it does make it a bit easier for us once we get that category approved. Doesn't mean we get it approved if we submit the plan, but they are really working while keeping the public's safety first and foremost. They are listening to concerns that we, restaurants and bars, have expressed about how that capacity affects our ability to either stay in or be in business. So I raised this specifically about the RV show and then order 4.4, what the health department is doing in general, just to let you know that, as you know, we have not booked any real activity for the first 5-6 months of this year. There are a number of events that we have safety plans submitted to the city for events for later this month, in March, in April, that could mean positives where we don't have them currently anticipated. Something that has been a good thing is that in reaction to the city's new order from last week, we've had 7 events otherwise unsolicited reach out to us looking for availability of dates and looking to find out what we can do with them. We have confirmed, I believe it's 4, if not 5, albeit they small, but amateur dance competitions in the theater that are under 250 people for March and April. So we are seeing an uptick. Now, unfortunately, at this point, they're not the high margin or high number events, but we need to get people back to work. And so long as we can make money on the event, we want to bring people into the building. So it's all very encouraging. Back in, I believe it was October, we came to the board and asked for approval to extend the Visit Milwaukee deal by a year because it was expiring December 31st. Just as an update to the governance committee, and I will share this with the full board next week, is I have seen, and I would hope that the members of my management team would agree, we've been working very closely with Visit since, we've always worked closely with them, but I think there's been a real laser focused effort since November, from November through today, to make sure that we are fully vetted of what they're doing and vice versa. And there has been a noticeable uptick in the amount of time that the different departments from the 2 organizations are spending with each other. There's ongoing and healthy collaboration ongoing, where I have said in the past that we seem to be downstream from decisions that Visit is making that affect how we're being sold. I feel very differently today than I did back in November when we met as a group with the 2 organizations. So I say that just to give you an update that I'm very gratified and satisfied to see how the 2 organizations are working together, and I really appreciate Peggy Williams-Smith's receptiveness to our comments, concerns, and how culturally the organizations haven't been on the same page and how we're getting there now. And I'm very encouraged by that. And that leads me to the fact that I have asked Peggy for our April board meeting given her 10-15 minutes on the agenda so that she can present to our board basically the state of the health of meetings and conventions on a national basis for life post-COVID, as well as and directly how that affects what she envisions for our market for the business, both short and long term. And that's of note. That's the update on visit. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my update, and I'm happy if there are any questions.
Are there any questions for Marty? Great, thank you for the update. Sounds like we're getting a little bit of momentum, hopefully, here.
Yeah,
These,
trying.
things we come out of this. So one tweak on this agenda, I think, just due to potential action that we may have to add something to next week's agenda. We're going to move the board meeting agenda review to after the personnel discussion.
Okay.
So I think at this point, the committee may convene in a closed session pursuant to S 19.851C to consider the employment, compensation, or performance evaluation of certain WCD employees over which the WCD board has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The committee is expected to convene in open session following this agenda item. So I would ask to entertain a motion to go into a closed session for this discussion.
So moved by Brennan.
Do we have a second?
Seconded by Crosby. Seconded by Crosby.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. We will take a minute as we clear the room and go into closed session. Thank you. So where are we on our?
You gotta bring us back to, did you do the motion for open session?
Yep. So, next order of business that we have on here is a vote for the recommendation of a performance payment. At this time, I entertain a motion for the approval of Mr. Brooks's payment for the net revenue bonus of $66,895 and the performance bonus of $37,500.
So moved. Johnson.
All
Seconded.
second,
This is Crosby.
all in
Seconded.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was not opposed, was it? No. All right. Great. So motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you're in the board meeting.
All right. Board meeting agenda review. I think we have that in front of us. Kirk will work with Michelle to modify the CEO compensation and have that in there on the new board meeting agenda for Friday as discussed. I think we're in good shape there, unless there's any questions. And then the future meeting dates are all in there. We do not have a full board meeting in March, but we do have committee meetings. And that is it. Any other items? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. This is Crosby.
I'll second.
Right, all in favor to adjourn? Aye.
Aye. Aye, aye.
Aye, aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. We'll catch up soon. Thanks for all your input and have a wonderful weekend and stay safe and warm.
Absolutely.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.